everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be doing the long overdue video on dermaplaning and how to do DIY at-home dermaplaning. So I've already explained on the blog post that goes along with this video kind of what dermaplaning is, why it's different from microdermabrasion, what skin types it's good for, all of the stuff you need to do it. So on this video I'm just going to jump right into the actual how to do it. So I would recommend reading that first because there are some good things that you'll want to know before doing dermaplaning, especially if you're going to be doing it at home. So I highly suggest reading that. Let's jump right into it. So the things you're actually going to need to perform dermaplaning at home is going to be a sterile 10-blade scalpel. I again have already explained all of this in the blog post and I've linked to the ones I use. I get these off of Amazon. I think it was $10 for a box. They are disposable, so that's great. I don't ever reuse one more than once. I've read on a couple of online forums that if you're just doing it on yourself, feel free to reuse. I'm kind of a germ freak when it comes to my face, so I do not reuse them. And I always make sure they're sterile, sealed before using. You're also going to need 2 sterile alcohol prep pads. These are super common, can be found in like every first aid kit ever. You probably already have these somewhere. And then lastly, you're just going to need a paper towel or 2. You'll notice that the blade will consistently get a little bit clogged with dead skin and hair, so you'll want to have something that you can easily wipe off that is not wet. Alright, so to start, it's really important that you wash your face first and pat to dry. So I've already washed my face. I've just been letting it air dry. It's completely dry. I will be experimenting the next time I do dermaplaning with a solution on my face. Since I already have very sensitive, dehydrated, dry, prone skin. Having my skin dry for so long, especially while doing something kind of abrasive, is a little bit harsh. So I will be looking into that, but for now, the best way and the only way I have done it is with extremely dry skin. All right, so my face is washed. It is literally as dry as possible. For me, I personally always only cleanse with an oil-based cleanser. Aside from when I dermaplane, I will follow up with a gentle foam cleanser, just to make sure that my skin isn't going to be very slippery, because like I explained in the blog post, it's going to be really important to hold the skin kind of as tight as possible, because that will help. So the next thing you're going to want to do is take one of the sterile prep pads and wipe your face with it. It kind of kills me a little bit because you all know I hate putting alcohol on my skin. It is insanely drying, but I'm just going to... I would rather wipe alcohol on my face than get plagued with like a bacterial acne infection or something. That would be so sad. Oh, it's making my eyes water. I hate this. All right, so done with that one. The next thing you're going to want to do is open your sterile blade, and it is important that you do grab a 10-blade scalpel for various reasons. And then it is already sterile, but I always wipe mine down with the second sterile prep pad. Just gonna very gently, and these are really sharp. I think that's why a lot of people are very against dermaplaning at home, because you're using a scalpel that's meant to cut skin. But I kind of think about it like no one woke up one day and was like, yes, I know how to perfectly dice onions. Like, it's something that can be learned. So now that that's prepped, I'm going to actually begin dermaplaning. And like I explained in the blog post, I am going to start with my forehead. That is typically the most difficult part for me when doing any kind of facial procedure, because the skin there is the thinnest. And in my opinion, that just makes it the most difficult to work with. So I'm going to begin there. Also, a lot of articles I've read either say go against the grain or go with it. I personally have kind of been going sideways against it and with it. So that's what has worked best for me. You might find that going against it works better for you. I don't think there's really a set standard of rules when it comes to dermaplaning right now, because it's still a relatively new concept and not every service provider does dermaplaning right now. So I just think the amount of information available, especially if you're going to do it at home, is not that great. So I'm going to begin on my forehead, and I'm going to hold the skin as tight as possible. And I'm going to hold the blade at a 45-degree angle. This is going to help the most. And you just kind of want to move in small fluid strokes. And you'll notice that holding the blade at a 45-degree angle is going to be the most beneficial. If you hold it more towards 90 degrees, you are going to cut yourself. So I just very, very gently in small fluid strokes. I try to avoid going over the same area too many times. But as you can see, there's already, here you can probably see it better, like so much hair already. That was from 4 strokes. So I'm gonna keep going just a little bit down the side. I consider kind of like the side of my face to be, so got down there. I'm going, and like I said, the forehead skin is the thinnest, at least for me, and it's already, my skin is so tight right now from double cleansing and putting alcohol on that I like barely have to hold the forehead skin. You want to definitely make sure that your hair is already in a ponytail. And how I think of the strokes is kind of like brushing the skin, like almost like if you were teasing your hair for a back comb. That's kind of like what this reminds me of. And you'll get the hang of it. I definitely dermaplaned like my entire arm almost while practicing and, you know, trying to learn how to do this. So I don't have much dead skin or peach fuzz on my forehead. You definitely will notice it coming into the cheeks. Oh, I'm trying to save all of it so I can show you how much is truly on your face. So here's where it gets important once you get down to the cheeks. At least for me, it's super important to hold the skin tight here, otherwise you will kind of catch the skin, and that is where you will cut yourself. So it's definitely important to hold the skin as tight as possible down here. So I'm actually not gonna talk while I do this part. So another important thing to note is that you do not want to go over active acne while dermaplaning. You're just going to be spreading germs around, or you're like, I have a scab right here because I was stupid enough to accidentally sleep in makeup. So you're going to want to avoid active acne, one, because if you break a pustule, then you're going to be spreading bacteria all over your face and put yourself at risk for a bacterial acne infection or breakout or whatever. And then if you're scabbing or scarring, you are just going to rip those off and it's going to be very painful. So I'm just going to avoid this whole little chunk, and I'll probably follow up with that in a few days when it's healed a little more. dermaplane. Obviously you can dermaplane your whole face, but I kind of think as a couple of the areas as optional. For example, I don't ever do underneath my eyes just because I don't want to risk cutting or slipping. Another area though that I actually do really like is in between my eyebrows. I typically don't wax ever, so I love dermaplaning for in between my eyebrows, because not only do you get the dark gross hairs off, but you get all of the peach fuzz too, which is really nice. I also love to kind of like shape at the tops of my eyebrows with this as well, because like I said, I don't wax typically, and if I do, I never wax on top or in the middle. So I love shaping around there. One thing you will notice with dermaplaning is that once you do it once, you I can never go back now. My makeup goes on 100 times smoother. I had no idea it could even look like that until I did this. My boyfriend didn't actually, I used to complain about my peach fuzz all the time. My boyfriend actually didn't notice my peach fuzz until I dermaplaned and then went back. So that was a bummer, but I also, having my moisturizer and my products and everything just kind of absorb better and sit better on top of my skin has been so amazing. I also think it's a great way to gently exfoliate your skin. So that is one of the questions I get asked a lot, like, do you break out after dermaplaning? And it's like, it's an exfoliating treatment like any other, so there is a chance you might purge. I have purged the last 2 times I did it, but I only got a few blemishes on my cheeks and they were there and gone within 1 day, so I can live with that. The last area I want to talk about is the nose. The nose is going to be the most difficult part to dermaplane. And this is because all of the little pores and the blackhead and all of the sebaceous filaments get caught in the scalpel so easily. So I would say, like, if you can live without doing your nose, or you are very experienced with a scalpel, you may want to avoid that. It is super easy to cut on the nose, but it's also extremely satisfying because you can literally like scrape out the blackheads. So I don't know if you can see, for example, I already cut it, and the thing about cutting yourself with a scalpel when you're not intentionally trying to cut yourself with a scalpel is that you don't even have to cut or slice. It literally can just be pressing like ever so slightly too hard, and it will cause like a little tiny micro tear in the skin. So it's not a full-on cut, and this will be healed by the end of the day tomorrow. But again, it's like definitely a little blemish there. So it's just up to you and what you feel comfortable with doing, but it is really satisfying to like literally scrape out all of the sebaceous filaments. So I am going to do my nose just very gently. After I've done all of the primary areas, I typically just give myself a once over in the mirror to see if I've forgotten any spots. I usually forget some of the little hairs along the top of my lips, so I just kind of do a quick follow up there. And then after dermaplaning, this is where I see, I guess there's a lot of controversy when it comes to dermaplaning, but what I see a lot of is, what products do I put on afterwards? What's the deal with the aftercare situation? So for me personally, I try to avoid sweating. If I'm going to do any kind of activity, I will try and do it in the morning and then do dermaplaning when I know I'm just going to be hanging out for the rest of the day and not sweating. So I do typically try to avoid sweat for the next 24 hours. And I also personally avoid harsh actives. I know a lot of people like to combine dermaplaning with like glycolic peels and other types of facial treatments. Personally, I think that would absolutely wreck my moisture barrier. I've already scraped part of it away. So I try to just typically avoid any other kind of harsh actives. My favorite thing to do is to gently apply my oil cleanser, like barely massage it in, and then just kind of rinse it off, just to make sure that, like, if, okay, I had a pimple, you know, and I spread some of that on accident around the rest of my facial skin, then I'm kind of just trying to keep my skin as clean as possible after this. I do like to follow this with like a sheet mask of some kind, something cooling, hydrating. Ice rolling, I definitely love doing that after this because my face always gets red. Some people are completely fine after and they just walk right back into work. Any kind of exfoliation makes me red, so I like to cool down with an ice roller. Moisturize all the way, and then my favorite facial oil I usually apply after this as well. I definitely avoid actives for the next 24 hours, otherwise it's just too harsh for my sensitive skin. But I wanted to show you all of what just came off of my face. This is, I just blew half of it away. Dang it! Okay. This is less than half of what just came off my face since I just blew it all away. But that is what came off of my face. There's a ton of hair. Like I said, I just blew most of it away. And then all of that like yellow, greenish grossness, all of that is almost from my nose area, kind of like pulling out all of the sebaceous filaments, a little bit from my chin too. So dermaplaning is great for more than just shaving your face. I refuse to say shave my face. I don't shave my face, I dermaplane my face. It's more than just shaving. This is the best physical exfoliation treatment I've ever been able to give myself at home. I am a huge fan of microneedling, but obviously I would never do that to myself. So in terms of finding a physical exfoliation for sensitive or dry skin, I would say this is a great option. So thank you for watching. If you have any questions, feel free to drop them below or through my blog or Instagram. I would be happy to answer anything, and I hope you all have a great